Okay, so yeah, basically the idea behind this series is that just a casual conversation between two friends. You don't have to be too official.
Are we friends?
Are we? I don't know. Okay, let's cut this. Yeah, and then like the idea behind this is that like obviously it's for Midori, but like I think one thing that sets Midori apart from everything else or everyone else is that I work with people I like. Yeah. Like I don't work with people I don't like.
That's your USP.
We work with people we like. No, that's the USP.
Yeah, we have a similar thing. No knobhead club.
Yeah. No knobhead?
Yeah, I'm the only knobhead at Slick.
I don't even know what knobhead is, but I like that.
Oh well, you can Google that, but it's I won't. It's pretty. It does what it says on the tin.
Okay, knobhead. Okay. So I think first starting out, can you explain where we are right now? Like what city and then what room we're physically in right now?
Yeah, so we're in the cinema room at Carson Waterman's. They're a local production company here in Stoke-On-Trent. Stoke-On-Trent is my closest city, but I grew up about half an hour from here. And that's where we are. It's the middle of England. Yeah.
First time in the middle of England?
For you?
Yeah, for me.
Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I mean, to be honest, I grew up in a town like this, and back in the U.S., it was about 30,000 people. I don't know how many people are here.
Yeah, it's a city. It's made up of 6 towns. So there's a lot of people here, and there's a lot of history, a lot of heritage. It's famous. Stoke-on-Trent is famous for 2 things, but mainly it's famous all around the world for Wedgwood's pottery, and just the pottery industry in general, really. But it's also famous for oatcakes. We need to get you an oatcake.
Yep, we're going to get one later today. Yeah. So you heard that from here. Please come to Stoke-on-Trent.
Yeah, Stoke-on-Trent. The people here are amazing. You'll get one of the warmest welcomes.
I was going to say besides you. You're the town knobhead.
I am. But yeah, I think you'll get a really warm reception coming here, and the people are just amazing. And I think Stoke-on-Trent is in the media for the wrong reasons a lot of the time. And they miss out all the good bits, and it's a shame to see. My partner Rachel, she's from here. She was born and bred here, so that is quite sad for her to see. But a lot of the things, the stories that we tell, are actually set here, or we film here. We choose to film here a lot. We love working here. It's a great city. Yeah.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit more about those stories that you like to tell here?
I think mostly we like to tell stories from our hometown, but we tend to focus on true stories with a social conscience, stories that have a message, and that can, I guess, try and change the world a little bit, or are doing good for society. Yeah.
Okay. So I think the reason I wanted to talk about where we are is because first, we're not in London, and second is I think your story is really interesting in particular because, like, from what I understand, you won an Oscar from your very first film that you made.
That's right.
And I feel like it's coming from like this grassroots, starting from here in Stoke-on-Trent or in the Midlands, and then going up to London, going up to the big world, to the big games, the big league, and winning this Oscar. Like, can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that was a short film. It was shot here. And the truth of it is, we really were, it was our first project, our first film. Although I was working and doing smaller projects, the Silent Child that we won the Oscar for was like the first proper film that I did, where we had a proper crew, a proper camera set up. Everything before that just felt like very run and gun and, small crews, or it was just me with the camera. So, yeah, I think everything came into place for that, really, and shooting here was very special. I don't think we could have done it anywhere else.
That was shot here?
It was shot in Stoke, yeah, okay. In and around Stoke-on-Trent. And the people here were just so open to helping, I think it's very different from shooting in a big city like London or even Manchester. The doors are closed, but here people want to help. So we shot in cafes and various other locations around the city, and it was just people were so welcoming, and you need that when you do a short film. There isn't budget to go round. We actually shot it a few years ago now, but it was for under £10,000.
Really?
Yeah. So it was, beg, borrow, steal. It was hard to get done, but like I say, I don't think we could have done it anywhere else. Yeah.
Wow, £10,000.
Less than the actual production of it. Yeah. That doesn't include like film festivals or anything like that. But yeah, that's kind of what we got it done for. Okay.
And when you started out to make this film, because to be honest, I don't think you started out and thought that you would win an Oscar, right?
We didn't even know that you could win an Oscar for a short film. We genuinely didn't. It wasn't until we were on set that someone mentioned it and said, God, this is, really special. You should, do you think it would win an Oscar? In fact, our cinematographer, he had these broken glasses and he said, I'm going to take these to the Oscars, and the whole crew laughed. He was probably one of the most experienced people on set, but we were all like, haha, and then cut to a year and a bit later, we were at the Oscars and he did have his glasses. And it was a really strange experience where that was concerned, because the intention was two things really, to us to kind of do something as filmmakers, but the main thing was really from Rachel. Her dad was profoundly deaf. He lost his hearing 2 years before he passed away. He passed away when she was 14, and that gave Rachel the impetus to learn sign language and really involve herself in the deaf community. And she saw for years and years and years the struggles that deaf children in education faced, and deaf people in general faced, and she wanted to kind of share her own experiences with her dad. And when she was an actress, she did a TV series called Switched at Birth, and she lived with a deaf lady, and it was kind of loosely based on her life and lots of true stories as well. So it was it came from inspiration of what Rachel had learned from immersing herself in the community. So it was honestly just to raise awareness. So you don't really ever imagine you would go on this crazy journey that we did. Yeah.
But was there a part on that journey when you were going, and then you were like, okay, something's going on here. It's not just like a run-of-the-mill short film. Like, obviously it's a great story, but you felt like there's traction building behind it or something like that.
We had nothing to compare it to. That's the truth. But I think we knew after the first couple of screenings the effect that it had on people. It was quite powerful, and we saw the kind of conversation afterwards that it started. People were desperate to find out more, and I don't know if you've seen the film, but it's quite a heartbreaking end, and there's this really important stats at the end, and nothing was sugar-coated. So yeah, I think we got a sense of it, and then we had our world premiere at Rhode Island Film Festival, which is an amazing film festival, and we were on opening night, and it played to like 2,200 people on the biggest screen I've ever seen in my life, and you hear the reactions afterwards. And then we just carried on this journey, this film festival. Your chair arms.
It's okay.
I guess it started to snowball, and then out of the blue, we found ourselves on the Oscar shortlist. It was at that time they shortlisted 10 films, and it was really out of the blue. We got an email from the Academy saying, we're on the shortlist, and overnight, your inbox goes absolutely mental. Like we, open our emails the next day, and there was just hundreds of emails from PR, distributors, all wanting to talk to us. And it was quite incredible. And then, 10 become 5. That day was crazy. And then you're at the Oscars, and we're able to take this little girl, Maisie, who was, represented all deaf children around the world in this film. To take her to the Oscars was probably more special than actually winning. Mm-hmm. It was really a beautiful journey that we went on, and something that we will treasure forever. It was truly very special.
Well, it's funny that you bring up like the actual event, because I think one way I was introduced to you was I remember back when I was at Xiaomi, we were doing the film, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, "Oh, I'm working with this Chris Overton. I don't know if he's like, oh shit, that's the guy that with the speech." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Yeah, their speech is really viral, went really viral on YouTube." And I looked it up, and I saw Rachel did the entire speech in sign language.
Yeah.
And then so it was like I even remember that because I think it was 2018 that Oscars, right?
Yeah.
So I remember hearing about that and then seeing the video then. So then I connected two and two.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you something. I've always wanted to ask you this, is that Rachel is just absolutely amazing doing the speech. You're in the background just standing there like this. Like,
I had the boring job of doing, the thank yous. I would say it's not boring, but, we always said if we were to win, we didn't really plan anything, but we just said, you look after the thank yous, and Rachel would look after, the humanitarian side of that. And she promised the little girl, Maisie, that if we won, she would do it in sign language. So it was a promise. Okay. And she says that at the beginning. And what people don't know is on the road to the evening, the Academy really drum it into you that you only have 45 seconds and then you're off. You have to get off the stage. And, there's famous moments of them turning the lights down, then turning the sound off.
Yeah.
So when Rachel finished hers, it said 3, 2, 1, get off the stage. And I was just about to talk. So I had to and there's a huge screen that you can see when you're on stage. And it said, get off the stage. So I had to rattle through all my thank yous. And I could hear the music starting to come up. And the next thing, they would have turned the sound down. But I just got it in just in time. And I just remember clocking eyes with Meryl Streep. And that was really strange. Very distracting when you're trying to talk and you look down and there's one of your cinematic heroes down there, I mean, a crazy life moment for both me and Rachel and everyone involved in the team. Yeah.
But I feel one part of your reaction on stage is you guys look like you really didn't expect it. I think that's what makes it such a genuine moment. Because there's the people that come with the speech, they're like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting this," you guys look like, especially like Rachel is like, you can just tell like how like things are just running through her head. You're back there like a mime. We didn't, we've shared a category with so many amazing films. They were just fantastic. And I think I was just in a little bit of shock. And I just remember I just didn't want to stand on Rachel's dress on the walk down. So that's all I was thinking about, really. But everyone was, you were so calm and cool when we were walking up. But I think I was just in shock a little bit. We really genuinely didn't expect that. There was, unfortunately, like a gun crime event and a school shooting at that time. And one of the films, it was called DeKalb Elementary. Amazing film. We thought that was going to win. And then there was, a few others. I think, there's all these odds and these bets, and we were in and out of that. But it was never, I don't think, a dead cert that we would win. I think it must have, I don't know, must have been a close one. But we got it, and I think what that did for the profile of deaf awareness is fantastic. Mm-hmm. Yeah. At that time, you were just turning 30 or in your 30s?
I was 28.
Yeah, 28.
I think I was 28, yeah.
So from the minute you shot the film to the minute of the Oscars, how long of a period was that?
Yeah, I think we shot it in January 2017 and the Oscars was March 2018. Okay. So it was just over a year. Yeah. So that was a wild year. But it was really from August when our world premiere was. When you win the grand jury prize at an Oscar qualifying festival, that's how you qualify for the Oscars. You have to win that top award, and then you apply for the Oscars. Then you get into a pool of like about 200 short films that have all won these qualifying festivals, and then it goes from 200 to 10 to 5 to 1. So, the chances are like very rare. Yeah.
I just feel because like basically it's a year time and it's going on when you're like your late 20s and like. It's just such a life-changing moment or a life-changing year for you. Yeah. But say if you never won the Oscar, or say if this never happened, where would you see yourself now, doing exactly what you're doing now, or?
Yeah, definitely, without a doubt. I don't know really where I would be, but I know I'd be filmmaking. The Oscar changes so much and nothing all at the same time, you know. It opens doors, but it doesn't get you a job. You know, you still have to pitch, and you still have to, you know, prove yourself like you always do as a director. So I don't know, great question. But I always say it was kind of like getting handed the keys to a Ferrari after just passing your test. You know, we really weren't prepared for all these offers. You know, I was offered several feature films, and I would read the script, and the first page was, I just thought immediately, like, I can't direct that. That's just, you know, I didn't really understand my own voice as a director at that point, but I knew innately that I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. So I just kind of like had an American agent at the time, and I just said, look, I'm just gonna go out and find my cinematic voice. And that's, you know, when we worked together on Leader, that was only my second short film. But I had done a few commercials and other things around that time. And then I you know, was helping more filmmakers make their short films as well. So working as an exec producer, which I love. So really, I think it was about 5 years, you know, before I could actually say, okay, I kind of know the kind of filmmaker I am and how I like to shoot and what I like to shoot. And I'll go back to The Silent Child. That's exactly the type of film that I dream of shooting all the time. You know, true stories with an important message, stories that can change the world.
Okay. So one other thing I found kind of interesting about you is because, just for everyone out there, we met in 2021, I believe.
Yeah, 2021.
Yeah, and like I was saying to you on the car ride here, like I think at that time we were all a little bit nervous. We were like, okay, he's an Oscar winner. Like everyone, like don't mess this up. Don't be weird. Like
I find that hilarious. You know, I'm not. That's funny to me.
Yeah. And like obviously at that time we have our stress, like we're getting pressed to make a good film, to make something that really embodies the brand. And I think we did at the end, but like leading up to that, there's always that stress of being in a company trying to create some marketing. And then I just remember the first time we had the call and we were talking about the story, and we turn on the camera. Rachel looks great, as always. And then there's you in a Raiders jersey.
He's saying I don't look great in a Raiders jersey.
I just didn't know what I was...
Were you expecting the tux? And
I was, the same exact tux from the Oscars.
What? We were like, whoa, who's this guy?
And like, because I love football, but I didn't know if I was going to be like, hey, are you a Raiders fan? Like, I like football, but like, I didn't even know, because you were just like, I was just a bit shocked. And I just didn't want to offend you or anything. And then like...
You wouldn't have offended me. I don't get offended very easily. No.
So do you like football?
I actually used to play NFL.
Really?
No, on the computer.
Oh.
No. I don't know where I would play, but if it was in real life. But I've always liked American sports. Okay. Yeah, just like on the the PlayStation. That's what I would play. And I was obsessed with NFL. Like so. If I had a team, I don't know. I had a friend who lived over in Atlanta, so I supported like the Atlanta Braves. It'd be the Atlanta Falcons if I was to support an American football team. So I don't know what I was doing wearing a Raiders jersey. That's just something I found in the shop that I liked. Yeah.
Yeah, I just remember it threw us off, but then I think like it was a good beginning to our friendship, because like. I forgot how it really happened, because we shot the film, like it was good. I enjoyed working with you. And then I think we just like hit it, like I forgot what it was. It was after I left Xiaomi, one day we hit each other up. And then now it's been London, Tokyo, back to London, and then Stoke-On-Trent.
Yeah, no, Stoke-On-Trent, absolutely. Yeah. I think it was just, like really that trip in Tokyo and you kind of showing... and sharing the culture a little bit and meeting Melody and that's how it happens over time. You like the people you know, really. Mm-hmm. I think it's just the barriers broke down in Tokyo, didn't they? In those small little bars where we had.
What are they called? Not the gentlemen's clubs. What are they called?
I don't know. But
I forgot what they're called. Yeah.
down that street, I just thought, I was actually working, wasn't I? At that time, I was doing something with Xiaomi and yourself. So I was, wanting to go to places where I could get good photography, and that street was one of the most memorable. The neon lights and the I just found the Japanese culture amazing, and that bar we were in. There's only 5 stools or 6 stools.
I think so, yeah.
Something like that. It's amazing. I fell in love with Tokyo, and I can't wait to explore Japan more. But it was just great having someone out there that
Yeah.
So, and you took me to the top of the Hyatt as well, right?
Oh yeah, Park Hyatt. Yeah.
To see where they filmed Lost in Translation, the hotel scenes.
Well, that was actually what I was going to say, because we went there to relive that movie scene. But then that day when we were together, that one of the biggest movie scenes, or one of the things I always picture in my mind, is when we were in Shinjuku walking around. Yeah. And there's this man, because they have those clubs where the women will come and see the men. Yeah. He's standing from the second balcony, and he's just like, goodbye. And his patrons downstairs, like a 40-year-old woman walking around. She's so excited.
I mean, that was quite eye-opening to me. Yeah. I really was, do you remember? I was quite shocked. Obviously, it's just so different from the culture over here. Yeah. But yeah, that was crazy. That was really crazy. And it's wild over there in Shinjuku, isn't it? Yeah. That part of it, it's, I don't know. I was fascinated by that part of Tokyo, because everything up until then is just so different from that.
I have a question for you, though. Is that, I was talking about this earlier this week, because I feel Japanese culture and British culture are very similar in some ways. Really? In terms of the way people act, and the keeping their culture, preserving their culture, having this view on upholding the culture. I don't know how you feel.
I guess those bits are true, but I think the things I took away from just visiting Tokyo was how clean it was as a place, how respectful people are. I was, I'm on the phone a lot for work, and I was the only one in these busy places. I was the only voice you could hear, which was amazing to me. It really made me put my phone away and just, you go into these busy places and you really can't hear much. People are just so calm and peaceful, and that was just quite a shock, but just a really nice surprise. And the streets, I mean, so clean, and people are patient over there. I think if you compare it to London, it's very different. So I think there's a lot of similarities, perhaps, as you say, but so many differences too. Mm-hmm. There really is.
I still remember when we were around, I think we were walking around, and then we saw some guys passed out on the street, and you were like, what's going on there? And I was like, oh, that's really normal. And that's it's so weird to see in Japan, is that you see these guys are drunk out of their minds, passed out, but then you see people placing water bottles around them. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, you explained that to me. That's what I was on about when, the culture, if people had red skin, they'd been drinking too much. And what did you call it?
We call it Asian, wait, what is it called? Asian flush? Or?
But they're called...
the salarymen.
Salarymen. Yeah. I loved, you and Melody were telling me about the salarymen, and I found that fascinating. Yeah.
I have a friend who's a salaryman.
Yeah.
Wakes up, so he had a roommate. They both worked at the same place, and the roommate woke up at 5 a.m. every morning, went to work at 6 a.m., worked until midnight, and then he would either go home and then get 5 hours of sleep, or sometimes, actually it wasn't sometimes, it was pretty often, his boss would want to go drinking with him.
Oh my God.
So then they would go drinking sometimes until 5 a.m. So then he would literally just go home just to eat breakfast and then go back to work.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do that. And that's quite regular.
I wouldn't say it's super common, but that was what he was going through. My friend was something similar to that, but not as crazy. Yeah. But it's just, it's a different culture. And it's one thing that I really appreciate about Japanese culture is this idea of, I mean, maybe not that part, like craftsmanship, or this idea of whatever you do, you put 100% into it. Yeah. And your 100% is never going to be 100%. Yeah. You will always be, there will always be a gap between here and perfection.
Yeah, and actually there's a similarity there to what takes place in Stoke-On-Trent, which is the pottery industry. Yeah. They would sometimes, people would be working on one piece of china for like 3 months, designing the pattern and getting it right. The craftsmanship was amazing, and I think there's definitely a similarity between actually Tokyo and Stoke in that perspective. And I find that fascinating about the sushi chefs, how long it takes to become a master of that craft. Or like you say, maybe you never do become the master, but isn't it like, don't you spend like 5, 6 or 7 years just doing rice? Isn't that right?
I don't know.
I'm sure I heard that when I was out there, and I was just like, wow, that's just dedication. Yeah. Incredible.
So I wanted to go back to something, because we started this conversation, you at the pinnacle, winning an Oscar, doing the speech, the tux, everything, but that's not where you really started. You started here, Stoke-On-Trent, and then also you started as a child actor, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. I started acting when I was about 8 years old, and as I got a little bit older, I actually my introduction to cinema and filmmaking was editing. Really? Yeah, it was a school project, and I remember we filmed the footage, and I found actually the filming of it quite stressful. I mean, nothing's changed. But when it came to editing and putting it together, I was hooked. I couldn't believe how you could manipulate footage. And we were editing in some very old software called Pinnacle 8.
I remember
I'm
Pinnacle.
showing my age now. But then I was like, I really want to start filming and editing. And I begged my mum for a video camera, and she said, no, we can't afford that. And I said, but it's my birthday. So I convinced her to get this video camera. And I started to make films on the weekends, and that was my way of keeping myself out of trouble. I was from quite a rough area, and it was either get into trouble or, make films. Sometimes I'd combine them, but on the whole, I would make films to stay out of trouble. And I made this film about bullying. That was like my first film that will never see the light of day, but it's called Get Back. It was about bullying, and I shot it, I edited it. And afterwards, I packaged these DVDs up. I nicked my mum's DVDs, took out the cases, replaced them with some artwork that I made on the computer, and I burnt these DVDs and packaged them up. And I took them around our neighbourhood. I knocked on people's doors and I said, "Look, this is a film about bullying. You want to buy a DVD for £2? Please give me £2." And I sold all of them, and I made £12 profit. And that was really my introduction to cinema, and this little video camera. I'd say, in a way, it saved me, because I could have gone down a completely different route, really. But those were my beginnings, and I was around 13 years old when I started to make films like that. And they weren't any good; they were rubbish. But I think, looking back, you can see I had an idea, some vision, and then from there, I think I just started to use my my opportunities as an actor. So I'd be on some big sets. I worked with Joel Schumacher, the late Joel Schumacher. He's famous for doing one of the first Batman movies. Roman Polanski, other directors as well. And I would use the sets as my sets in my films. So we filmed. I played Noah Claypole in Oliver Twist, in Polanski's version of Oliver Twist. And the plane ride, the airport, sometimes on set, I would create these scenes, and I would use these big Hollywood sets for my own movies.
You would actually be recording there, or just?
Yeah. I remember doing Get Back on, and there was some scenes on a plane, and I would just put my arm out and act like that, and I'd angle it so you couldn't see my arm, or I'd get my mum in the airport to film me, and the taxi rides there, and in my trailer and stuff, and I'd use at home I'd use a wheelie bin for a tripod. We didn't really have any equipment other than that camera, and so I'd kind of mix them, really, and then I just fell out of love of acting, really, and fell more in love with filmmaking and directing.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think there's not much you can do as an actor after doing your show reel. You keep going to lessons. Like I felt a bit out of control being an actor. Rachel still desperately wants me to carry on acting, but I don't love it as much. I love working with actors, so I think I felt like more creative. You know, there's so many areas of film that as a director you get to be involved in, whereas an actor it's just performance. You know, as a director it's performance, production design, cinematography, sound, editing, producing, everything. It's so involved, and I love that. I think that's, and so many people have gone on that similar path. A lot of actor friends of mine have kind of fallen out of love with it and fallen in love with filmmaking. I think it's quite common.
Yeah. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah. I definitely prefer it. It's something that I started actually quite young, and I just don't think it'll ever leave me,
So now with Slick Films, you're taking even a further step back from being a director to being more executive producer, you would say, or?
No, directing's definitely my number one thing that I love, and that's what gets me out of bed every morning. But I love helping people as well make their movies, tell their stories, and I learn equally as much from working as an exec producer as I do working as a director. So I definitely say I'm a director first, and then a producer second. But I think the most creative part of filmmaking for me is the bit that I love is definitely directing. But you can kind of watch from a distance and learn as an exec, and I think you can just help in another way. You can be creative in another way. Mm-hmm. So, and I love building the brand of Slick Films. I'm very passionate about that, and I love what our message is as a company. So, I can't do all the short films. I'm not the right person to direct all these short films, but I love, telling all these different stories that contribute towards change in society. And also, there doesn't always have to be that type of film as well. I think at 1 in every 5 or 6 films we do can sometimes just be a love story, or can just be something that's not humanitarian, that's not like banging the drum about something. We definitely understand that Slick Films, that yes, you can have films that aim to change the world, but they've got to be entertaining as well. You've got to get bums on seats, You've got to fill a cinema, which is getting harder and harder now.
Bums on seats.
Bums on seats.
That's a very British way to say that.
It is.
I mean, and that's good, because I've always admired what you and Rachel do, but I think at the same time, how do I say this delicately, or maybe not delicately, but it's easy to take it to a level where it turns people off, where you're just, you know what I mean? So I like what you're saying about bums in seats, and saying that it's good to have that message, but also you want to entertain people. And I feel for me, this is something I talk about with a lot of directors, because especially for commercial work, and you guys are also doing commercials, is that people say it is oh, I'm compromising myself, I just want to make art, I just want to blah, blah, blah. And I feel for me is that there's a saying, if a tree falls in the forest, does anyone hear it? And it's the same thing with art. If anyone doesn't see your art, is it art? And most artists would be hell no, it's obviously art. But I feel a big part of that is the communication aspect, and people actually seeing it and resonating with them.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's why I love working with Rachel. I adore her scripts. She genuinely is. I think, I'm biased, but I think she's one of the most exciting up and coming writers. And she writes scripts that really make you think, but also make you laugh, gasp and cry. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a sign of a good film. If you take a person in a cinema through a range of different emotions, you leave with a real experience. And I think that's what she's able to do. There's so much comedy, even in the darkest of scripts that she writes, she somehow finds these amazing characters and invents these amazing characters. That's what I think is so appealing about her scripts. It's appealing to me. That's why I wanted direct everything she writes. I'm very lucky that I get first dibs on that, you know.
That'd be a bit awkward if you didn't get first
Yeah,
dibs.
yeah, but you know, we're very good like that as well. I know, like, not everything that she writes I'm going to be right for, or a big enough director, you know, like, I've got to be gracious and bow out, but I'm always there in the background if I'm needed. But yeah, most of the time, you know, that's the way it is, and it's worked really, really well. Yeah.
So that is a question I actually did want to ask, is about working with Rachel. Like, how is it? Because, like, for example, me and my girlfriend right now, Melody, hello, Mel, you've met her too, is that, like, I think we've even talked about this, is sometimes there's someone that takes, like, when someone's chasing their dreams or something, it's hard to have two dream chasers at the same time, I think. And one thing I love about my girlfriend so much is that she's always there to support me, not blindly support me. She'll give me criticism when I need it, but there's a lot of that support. And I think that to myself, it's something that I'm critical about myself. I wish I was more supportive, but I think that it is a compromise in a sense. But how do two people that are chasing their dreams at the same time go about this?
I mean, we genuinely are a great fit, because she's a writer, I'm a director, we're both producers. So I mean, I can just explain in music how different we are, but how we complement each other. So we'll be listening to a song and she'll be like, oh my God, the lyrics are amazing. I said, oh my God, the melody is amazing. Like, that's us. I look at the imagery, she looks at the words. So it's a really good combination. And yeah, you know, like any partnership, it's hard at times. You know, you need to take a break, and she's better at doing that than I am. You know, you need to have time for you as people, and realize there's other things. It's not just filmmaking, and yeah, I think I believe that chasing the same dream together is we complement each other, and I think we help each other get closer to our dreams, you know. We have different strengths and weaknesses, and we recognise that, and the more we work together, we know we can kind of like step in someone. I can step in if there's a weakness of Rachel's and it's a strength of mine, and vice versa. So yeah, we're very proud of our working relationship.
So, because I have this question. Do you feel like you're separating your work relationship and your personal relationship with Rachel, or you guys it's just together?
No, we have to, really. And like, one of the best things I've done is get a business phone that I can actually turn off at a certain time and leave off on a weekend. But I think I've got better at that. She's always been good at that, and I've had to get better at it. Cause I'm definitely like a workaholic. I'm work obsessed, and I love it. I really do. But I think everybody needs that time away from what they love, even though it's, you know, it's like working on weekends. It's easy to fall into that trap of working on weekends, but I don't think it's healthy. And I think, you know, I've got better at looking after that. And actually, like, if I don't work over a weekend, I'll probably have a better week the following week. I'll work harder, you know. Yeah, what are you like? How do you separate the two?
The two?
Because I know you're a workaholic too, definitely, you know.
I mean, like, I always joke with people, it's like the Japanese gene in me. Like, it's just, I don't know not working, if that makes sense. Like, and that's why I do Midori now, because I really don't see it as work. I see it as every day. It's like building a Lego. A Lego with maybe, I wouldn't say 1 billion, 100 million pieces. And it's like, no matter what I do each day, whether it's working till like whatever time, or even like something that happens that's not ideal, it's putting a Lego in. Like, that's how I feel every day.
That is such a good metaphor.
Yeah. I'm building a Lego house.
Yeah,
or building...
It's so true. And it's just, there's so many pieces to it. And sometimes it feels like, you know, there's no shape to it. You're like, is it when will the Lego house finish? But yeah.
And I feel that's how I felt before, is that when I wasn't doing Midori, it was that I'm doing this motion. I'm working really hard every day, but I'm putting invisible Legos into an invisible house. I'm not actually building anything. Yeah. And that's what I feel now is like, I don't know where Midori will end up in 10 years, 5 years, even 1 year. Like I always joked with everyone, we're getting to the 1 year anniversary soon. And I said that the main goal is to not die. Like I say that, and we're not dead. So I say like, congrats, like to us. But that's the thing is I would never tell people, I can tell people my vision, my thoughts, but I would never tell people what I see it being in 10 years or what exactly we would be, because it's just putting those Lego pieces in every day.
Yeah. I think it is good to have like a vision that is just so unreachable, like a star, you know, and it almost feels like it could never happen, but that keeps you going, really.
No, I like that, like an unreachable goal, but also having something physical at the end of the day, because like I'm not gonna like bullshit anyone and say like, oh, I'm gonna build like a rocket to the moon or something like that. But I might say like, okay, here is our goal for this year. We want to do this, but there's also a rocket to the moon going off over here, like something like that.
Yeah. I think that's the way you should look at it. Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. That's how I feel about Slick. But yeah, it's nice being also, you know, your own boss. I think I really love that. And I think that's probably my favourite thing, because you're in control of really what you decide to do each day, you know, and that's kind of where the fun is, and also inviting other people in to kind of share that with you and help it grow. It's exciting because you've got to recognise that you can't do everything as like a CEO. You just can't. Yeah. Or you're not good at everything. I mean, I don't know about you, but there's strengths and there's weaknesses. So it's about finding people that complement you and can fill in the gaps. Yeah.
Well, I always say this to a lot of creators that I work with, is that like, because I wouldn't say love. I partake in photography. Yeah. It's not a love of mine. It's not like something I have to do every day, but it's something I do like to do. I would say that. And when I started working with other photographers and creators and filmmakers, it made me start to like my photography less. And then I've been thinking about it recently, is that I feel like it's not, I shouldn't like it less, it just makes me want to learn more. Yeah. And that's what I love, is that I feel like when you're in a position where you can be a CEO or something like that, you really see your shortcomings, and then you learn how to fill in those shortcomings rather than focus on them. And yeah, I think it's something nice, and especially for you, is like, when you're an actor, you're looking, like you said, you're looking at it from such a small perspective. When you're a director, you step back. And then I think the more you step back, the more you realize you're not good at things. And then to keep moving up, you can't physically learn everything. It's only about getting the right people in the right places.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Where does the word Midori, why Midori?
I love how the tables have turned. So it's kind of funny. It's actually part of our pitch, like, because I've come across this a few times recently. Like, it's time for my rant. Like, there's things that really bother me, especially after creating a business. And the thing that I hate most is, have you watched Succession? I think we talked about this. Yeah, you haven't. Yeah. No. So like, I don't like not serious people, and the reason I say that is. I feel that starting a business for me is something serious, and it's not just me showing that I'm serious to whoever I'm working with. It's, for me, the main thing I want to be serious about is that I'm responsible for other people's livelihoods now. And I take that with, it's a great power. It's an awesome power that you must really respect. And I feel you come across some of these entrepreneurs or these people that are, oh, I have a company, but yeah, whatever. Yeah. Or like, oh, we'll sell it, or like, oh, yeah. And I feel I'm not in this to make money. I'm not in this, I mean, money's nice, but it's a responsibility, I feel like, and I take that seriously. So the reason I came up with the name Midori is, it's actually my mom's name. I should say that in the camera. It's my mom's name. And, I love my mom. Yeah. My mom is a saint, and I say that, and it was kind of funny. Like, she always thought I was joking because it's from Anchorman. You know, Anchorman. He says like, I love that film. Yeah. He says, what is this? The mom's name? Dorothy is a saint or whatever. Yeah. So like I used to always joke about that with my mom as a kid, and she'd get kind of annoyed. But like I was actually being honest about it. Like my mom was a doctor, but she never practiced one day in her life because she sacrificed her career to raise us.
Right.
Like if that isn't the definition of saint, I don't know what is.
Very true. Yeah.
And so, I mean, yeah, one is I feel like a big part of my life is paying it back to people that have helped me along the way. And I think one way I could do it in a tiny, tiny way is name the company after her.
Yeah.
And this,
Nice.
yeah,
Really nice.
yeah, thank you.
I think you're right though. I really resonate with what you said about, you know, not having a responsibility. You know, I think you don't start a production company, I think, thinking, well, I'm doing this for money. You know, you'd maybe go and be a salaryman. But I think, yeah, like although that's nice and you need it to survive, it's more of a creative thing and like a stamp of who you are as a person. You can do so much through the brand that you couldn't do through being an individual, and that's what I love. It just spreads like wildfire if you can, you know, get a good brand going. You know.
I mean, but one thing I like that you brought up the salaryman, because I was having dinner with a friend the other day in Milan, and we were talking about like having a desk job versus having this, and I mean having an entrepreneurship or something like what we're doing. And he was saying that like, oh, I couldn't do what you do, and it's like kind of like the classic conversation about that. And I just felt like I totally respect people that work at desk jobs, and I think that people in desk jobs, like you saying he envies me or respects what I do. I think the problem is when you try to do both, right? And I think that's when you're not being serious. When like you're treating an entrepreneurship like a desk job or something that it's like something you can leave at any moment. Because that was the thing I was saying, is that like the stress of having a company is that you can't leave.
Yeah.
A desk job, you can change it when you want. You can technically leave when you want. Like,
yeah, that's very true. Yeah. I think it when you're starting though, you might have to do a bit of both. I know I did, like, you know, because when you start from scratch, if you don't have that cushion that you need or that investment, you know, lots of entrepreneurs over here start something like and just try and grow it in the same way I did. Like it's taken a long time before I could kind of like, you know, I think it was me. I supported myself through acting. That's how I was able to kind of sustain Slick Films. And we have another division called Slick Showreels, which helps it, you know, keep afloat. But you know, and in the early days, we had to do that, you know. And now it's growing. It's exciting, and it's my full-time job, and I adore it every day.
But I think there's a difference between like, because obviously like even I had to like start planning. I didn't just jump into the deep end. But there's that seriousness about what the final goal is, right? You weren't saying like, oh, like the only reason you wouldn't do Slick at the end of the day is if it didn't work out, right? It's not like, oh, it's working, but I'll go back.
There's not an option for it to not work out.
Yeah, exactly. There's no option. Yeah.
It's like it will. You know, it has to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt, and that's the second reason we named it Midori, is that I want to tell people that I am deadly serious. Like I'm like when I'm coming to your office, when I'm talking to you, I'm serious. Like I'm a nice guy for the most part, but I don't fuck around when it comes to like my goals and my passions. Like this is what I want to do, and this company is not for sale. It's not like a one in the bucket like flash and then we leave. Like it's my mom. And it's ride or die, basically.
That's great. Yeah, no, I really resonate with that. It's exactly how I feel. Although Slick Films isn't named after my mom, it's still...
Be kind of weird if your mom was named Slick. That could be like a British thing that I would, like if you told me that, I'd sure like her name is like Slick Overton. I'd be like, oh, okay.
No, it's not. Linny P. Lynn Poyner is it?
Linny P? Like P is
That's
like...
what we call a Linny P.
Linny P?
Linny P.
Sounds like a rapper name, to be honest.
Yeah, Linny P, yeah. No, I agree. It's nice hearing you fired up like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I don't know, like, that's, I think you can ask Melody, like, that's one of the only things that really gets me fired up, is like that, because I feel like, and I think actually relating back to what we were saying about taking a step back and like learning how to manage different things. I think one of my shortcomings before was I would get so invested into like an artistic vision that I would, one, become very hard to work with, and then two is that not only are you being a dick and no one wants to work with you, it's really limiting yourself. And this is something that I always talk about, and it's something that I've learned that if I want to really be successful in what I do, I have to learn how to, one, not be a dick, and two, take a step back.
Yeah, I think you have to be open. There's so many amazingly talented people that perhaps aren't open to, you know, a bit of feedback or whatever. Open to other ideas. I think I've always led with the best idea on the table wins, and a lot of people are like that as well. I think because ultimately the one thing that matters is that product or that film. You just want it to be the best it can be, and then it will serve the company. Then it will serve you as individuals. I think that's really important. But each to their own. Yeah.
I like you're the first one to ask me questions.
Oh really?
Yeah. I mean, some people do. It's like because that's the thing is I want it to be a conversation. I don't want it just to be like one way, like, oh, what do you like? Obviously that's how we get the conversation started, but like the idea for this podcast is that, or whatever it is that like it's just two people talking. And it was actually based off of, I don't know if you've seen this, Undisputed. Wait, not, what is it? It's not called Undisputed. That's the Skip Bayless show. Uninterrupted. The shop. It's LeBron James's.
Oh right, no, I haven't seen that.
It's really good just because I like, you feel like a fly on the wall.
Right,
like the way they shoot it, the conversations, you really feel like a fly on the wall. And I don't know, like I didn't want to just sit around and just like interview people. Like one is, it's not what I do, and two is that like I just feel no one else is interested in that. Like, and three is like what we were saying before when we were starting is that I think that's what makes Midori unique is that like it's not like I just call you up and like I'm not an agency that just calls you up and says like, hey, I got to work for you. It's like we're really shooting the shit each time we talk.
Yeah,
right?
I know. I mean, it just means if we do a job together, I know, oh God, that's going to be so much fun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the first thing you think about. You want to work with people you know and want to work with nice people. You know, I think it just makes any kind of work or any kind of creativity so much better, so much.
Well, yeah, exactly. It makes it better and that's one thing I pitch to our clients or whoever we work with, and it's also something I don't pitch, is that like the content or the quality of what we do will be better because of our relationships.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, because you can have those difficult conversations and you listen more.
Yeah.
You know, if you have an idea that I don't agree with, that's okay, and you know, but you'd probably be able to get your point across easier, I think. But yeah, what do you think about when you have got a client that, and you've got a director and you're in the middle, and they really want something that is completely different to what the director is saying? Like, from working with you, that you manage that so well, that balance, you know, to try and find that middle ground, because it's, I guess you could say it is compromising. I think you have to do that on commercials, really, and working with the client, because ultimately they're the ones, it's their brand, they're the ones paying, or they're the ones in charge in a way. So the director takes on a different dynamic. I think they fall from the top in feature films, and they have to accept being a bit lower down the chain where they don't have, you know, as much authority. How do you balance that at Midori?
I would say this is like kind of not answering your question, taking a step back, is there's one question I love to ask in interviews to people, and there's no correct answer to it, is creativity objective or subjective? And like the thing I was saying to Carrie, someone I work with really closely, is that most people will say, of course it's subjective. And then other people will say, they'll kind of think it's a trick question. So they'll be like, it's objective, like, you know. And then the answer for me is that I personally believe is that creativity is subjective, but the challenge that we face is trying to make it as objective as possible. And that's what I try to do every day, is that I try to take these really subjective things that are going on and try to at least make it somewhat logical, and then break it down for different parties to understand that logic. And I feel that's the only thing I do, really. And that's why I feel And it goes back to what I was saying before, is like when I was being a dickhead and like just in the creative, is that I wasn't trying to be objective about it. I was just being in my own subjective world. But when I stepped back and then tried to learn, okay, how can I take what Chris is thinking, take it to a client, a Chinese client, a client that doesn't understand this art world, and how do I bridge that? And you can only do that by being objective.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're like building a bridge, like you can say, okay, that's this, but the bridge has to make sense, right? It has to be straight, it has to carry people over. Like there's certain rules to this stuff.
Yeah, I would definitely say art in general, any, be it film, paintings, like, you know, any form of art has to be subjective, and that's what I love about it. But you're right, if you can get something that the masses enjoy, then you're onto a winner, and that's essentially what cinema is, right? You can have one film that one person will say is the most amazing film ever, and another person can say they absolutely hate it, and neither are wrong or right. But I think its mass appeal, what people are aiming for is, you know, a large collective audience to say, yeah, they like it. But I really do think two people can look at a painting and think completely opposing thoughts on it, and that's okay. And that is the beauty of what we do. I really believe that. When I'm execing, I'm always really careful, because I'll give comments in what I like. That's just natural. You just do. You go, oh, I think that should be, you know, we've got this slate of short films at the moment, and I'm giving my notes. But I'm always so aware that that's just my opinion. Take it or leave it. And that's our stance at Slick. If we're working with a director and a producer and a writer, that we treat them as, like, you know, top of the pecking order. Because I know how that feels. And someone might make a decision, and a really strong decision, and stick with it. And I'd completely disagree, but I'm like, that's your vision. That's what you believe is the best for your film. I've said yes to your screenplay, or, you know, to making this film with you. So I have to put my trust in your decisions. Yeah. And so I sometimes can be really strong about certain things, but I always try and make them aware that it's just my taste. It's just my opinion.
But I think when it comes down to that question of taste or opinion, I always feel it's best to trust that person and their opinion, because one, you found them for that reason. Yeah. And two is I feel that people are always doing better work when they're motivated, and no one's motivated when they're doing something they don't believe in. So that's how I try to do. I try to like whittle it down, get all the objective stuff out of the way, and then when you get to that subjective stuff, trust the person you're working with.
I think so. So I think that's hard in the commercial world, because the director can be really frustrated. I'll always remember when I did my first commercial, it was right after The Silent Child, and it was
the Huawei one.
Yeah. And you know, it did really well. It like won lots of Cannes Lions, and it was a successful commercial, and like a really meaningful one too, which I think can be quite rare in that world. But I remember on set, the creative director, I just didn't understand like the process of commercials. I went from being on set with 15 people to 150. You know, it was a big jump. And I just treated that commercial exactly the same, you know. Oh, do we lose some light?
Yeah, we lost some light.
What was that?
It was this one here. Here, I think we'll stop recording really quickly. Okay, we're back with after our light. So I guess we're gonna wrap up here, because we're gonna grab a drink, and then I'm gonna head back to London.
Yeah, London town.
London town. So I guess the last part, we can keep it a bit more like, how do you say, like educational, I guess.
Okay, sure.
If I was a filmmaker trying to win an Oscar, what would I do?
Try not to win an Oscar. Genuinely.
Okay.
I think so. I think that's why we did, because we weren't trying. We led with our hearts and only our hearts. And everybody on the team did, you know. We just made this amazing thing. And I think you can't plan for it to happen, I don't think. I'm sure people have won Oscars where they said, I want to win an Oscar, I'm going to win an Oscar. I'm sure it's happened many times. But if I could say that to a young filmmaker, like, I would say there's a few things that you should probably do. is, number one being don't focus on that. It's way more likely to happen if you just lead with your heart and you find something that is universal. We definitely had something universal that spoke to anybody around the world could watch that film and relate to it or be touched by it. So it's really some of the things, some of the stories and the ideas that you have are right under your nose, and what you think is just that no one will care about that. Those are the actual things that people from around the world will be like, oh my God, that's so different to my life. But I get it. So I think lead with your heart, write what you know, and don't aim to win an Oscar. I think you're more likely to win one if you don't have that vision. But also, we have a lot of directors that we work with. There's one in particular, one of our roster directors called Daniel DeVille, and he is so set on winning it, and I believe he absolutely will. He's so talented, so driven, and he's not shy about saying that, and I love that. But he's like a veteran filmmaker. So I don't know. That's everyone has their own opinion. But I think that would be my advice.
That wasn't the answer I was expecting, to be honest.
What were you expecting?
I thought you were going to be like, first, if you want to make it in the film industry, we have to explain, yeah. So, I pride myself on doing accents, and I feel like that's the one accent I can't do, the British accent.
I think you can do a good British accent, yeah.
I need more coaching from you.
Yeah, it's not too far away though, like your accent actually. I don't think you've got quite an American accent, haven't you? But
I have a weird, out of nowhere accent, I feel like.
It feels to me like more
American, yeah.
Yeah. I think so.
But getting back, I do want to get to the accents, but getting back to the keys to success. I guess, because this is actually a good point, because my grandpa was an architect, and a lot of people would ask him, how do I become a good architect? And he would hate that question, because he felt like you're not learning the process. You're just trying to find out the shortcut, and there is no shortcut. And I like what you're saying is that even thinking about the goal will kind of detract from you getting to the goal.
Yeah, because it's the ingredients that are really important. So if you're thinking about the success of those ingredients before you've even started or got all your ingredients together. Yeah, I don't know, if you before you even started to make a cake and you don't know how to make one, and you were hoping that it would be the most amazing cake and everyone would try it and it would just, I don't know, you've got to just focus on the craft, I think.
But if we're talking about cakes, you had the ingredients already and you had really good ingredients. Because, to be frank, you won an Oscar off your first film, which is absolutely amazing, right? Yeah. So if you didn't have that as your goal, you at least had good ingredients. So if you had a a recipe for success, what would those ingredients be?
Well, I think we built those ingredients along the way. I think the main thing was the story, the idea from Rachel. And then it was building a team that all had something to prove. We were all nobodies, We all had, we wanted to make our mark on the world. I think that hunger and that drive, made it possible. Also, the authenticity. I think Rachel was so driven and got us, the main core team, on board there. She was like, there is no way we are casting any child that isn't profoundly deaf. That's a big thing, and it's happened for years. People play people with a disability. There was just no chance. And I don't know, other filmmakers around that time, before, the world has changed in the last 5 or 6 years, very much so. People are way more conscious of that. They weren't back then. And, we were educated by Rachel. The entire team was educated by Rachel. And there was just never a world where we wouldn't cast a profoundly deaf child. So that authenticity, and she was amazing. She really was the spark of that film. She touched people. She broke people's hearts, on and off camera, She represented something for all deaf children around the world. That was a huge reason as to why we won an Oscar, without a doubt. But it was also, like I say, the team, the script, everything that each person did on that film, small or big, contributed to that. You know, if you have to tick 1,000 boxes to win an Oscar, like, we got a lot of those right, and it took everyone on that team in order to do that. It was such a, said it in my Oscar speech, it was such a team effort. It really was. Everyone played their part. They really did. Yeah.
I think that's a great way to end this. Like, there's no real checklist, but if there was, you checked up most of those boxes.
Yeah. But if we would have done that 6 months later, maybe we wouldn't have. Maybe it just lined up. Maybe the little girl Maisie was the exact right age that she needed to be to capture the hearts. Maybe if she was slightly older, she wouldn't have had that innocence. Maybe, you know, we wouldn't have got certain crew members. It just was the timing. Like, you can't plan that. You can't. And we caught a bit of momentum. I think people talk about momentum. When you catch some, don't let it go. And we got some momentum with that project, and it just snowballed, and we kept it going. And I think that was key. There's so many factors that all came together at the right time.
So my last question would be, I think, just not really a question, it's more of a comment. I think, like, we talked about, like, how we first met, like our time in Tokyo, but I think, like, obviously there's many different things that make us friends, but I think the one thing that is strongest is I really admire your humbleness. Like,
thank you very much.
I mean it full-heartedly, and, like, I think most people in your position, being so successful at such a young age, it could easily go to their head. And I think that just being around you and seeing, like, you've already reached the pinnacle of filmmaking, but then you're just an everyday guy that we can grab a beer together or something like that. That really it's an example for me, and I think it should be an example for everyone else. So this might be a difficult or kind of a weird question, but how do you stay humble?
That's very nice of you, genuinely. Thank you very much. I don't know is the answer. If you know, that's really nice of you to say. I think my background, like, you know, I didn't have it easy. I think I've had to really fight. Nothing's been handed to me. I'm a workaholic. I think that maybe has something to do with it. And I have good people around me. You know, I'm very lucky with people like Rachel in my life, and the team at Slick Films. When you're a director, you don't have the answers to everything. I certainly didn't, and I know lots of other directors will agree with that. You have a vision, but you don't know. You don't have to know how to do every single bit. You know, I know Tarantino famously says that too. So I think it's a combination of being surrounded by really good people, probably, you know, being brought up very well, and I think just having to work really, really hard for that. I don't know if it was handed to me a little bit easier. Would I be where I am today? I don't think so, really. Yeah, but everyone has their own path, right? That's just mine.
Mm-hmm. Do you think another part of that is also just having Rachel as not only your wife, but also your partner? Like, that's the main thing. And I think you're talking about all those different ingredients leading up to your Oscar. And it sounds like your partnership is a huge part of that. Like, not only are you two incredibly talented, but just the ability to build off of each other and be influenced by each other. Yeah,
definitely. You know, I think without her scripts, you know, like without the start of that, you know, I think we're so lucky that we're so aligned. Mm-hmm. I could really enjoy horror and sci-fi, but I don't. We both love the exact type of true story and the exact type of movie. But still, there's that difference. Like I spoke about the music earlier. She likes lyrics more. I like melody more.
Not my melody.
Yeah. But we complement each other, you know. Like, so yeah, I think that's a huge reason, you know. And I think, you know, it is hard to do it all yourself. I think you do really need a good team. I think successful people usually have really good people around them. I know that's true for me. Absolutely.
Nice. I think that's a great way to end this.
Nice one, Stephen.
But one more thing, I did want to ask you, while the cameras are still rolling, can we show them the accent?
Oh my God. I mean, I don't even know what the accent is, Stephen. What is it?
So it's, okay, so just an explanation for everyone out here. So I don't know, it just snowballed into just a thing every time. But every time I get a message from Chris, he always sends me voice messages, right? And they are hilarious. Let's see if I can play. Can I play one?
No, don't play.
Don't play one?
No, don't play them. You can't do that to me, Stephen. But
So you can act it out though.
But what it is, I like accents. I'm obsessed with them. I always have been obsessed. So it's not uncommon. If anybody that knows me is watching this, that's quite
Really?
for me to start. It depends. I have separate friends that I have different accents with. That's dedicated only to you. So
So can you show the people out there what that accent is?
I'm too embarrassed. I'm a very shy person. Maybe let's get to post-production and I might allow you to slot something in.
I'm not even going to dare to put it in there. I mean, try it myself.
Yeah, I do love accents. And actually, whilst we're here in Stoke, it's worth mentioning it's such a unique accent and it's one of the hardest accents to do. What's your favourite accent if you were to have one around, anywhere in the world?
I like my dad's accent. He's from Alberta, Western Canada.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I always joke that my dad doesn't call me Steven, he calls me Steven.
Okay. Is there like a weird inflection?
Yeah, there's a lot of inflections in like Western Canadian accents, which I like. And I kind of have that too, because some people think I sound like, Americans think I sound really weird.
Really?
Yeah, and then Canadians think I sound really American, so it's like I'm somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
But I like British accents for the most part. And I think that's where it started, because in China, like, people find British accents, it is kind of interesting because like we were both speaking English, but it's different, especially to someone who's Chinese.
Right.
And that's where it started, because when I would talk to British people, they'd call me Steven. And then I brought this up to you once, that like all the Chinese people thought it was funny that British people call me Steven. And then that's what every time you call me now. Oh yeah, Steven, how you doing there?
I prefer your impression of my impression. That's good.
My favorite now is that you've added in this, you go like this, oh yeah, Steven, how you fucking doing there? And then you switch back to your normal act.
It gets so ridiculous, doesn't it? We've taken it to the real extremes now.
My favorite is when you were going skydiving, you're like, oh yeah, Steven, how you doing, Steven? There's other people around me. I can't use that, I can't talk. I'm like, if you're around other people, you can just talk to me normally. You're like, no, I have to.
Just quietly whispering it, yeah. Oh, blimey. Well, thanks for having me on. What would you call this, a show?
The Friends of Midori show.
Thanks for having me on Friends of Midori.
Yep, and now you're a friend of Midori.
So you have to have come on the Friends of Midori to be a friend of Midori.
I actually didn't think about that, but I think that's a good thing.
That's how you hook people in.
Yeah, I'm like, you're not a friend of Midori until you're on.
Yeah, you're not a friend of Midori yet, but we'd like to make you one by coming on the show. So I'm officially a friend of Midori.
Technically, you'd have to meet my mom to be a friend of Midori.
Okay, yeah.
You could be a friend of Midori in spirit. She would love you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you would love her too.
I hope to get to meet her one day.
Yeah. One day you have to come to Buffalo.
Yeah.
Coming to my hometown.
I like that very much.
Nice. Okay, cool. Okay, let's go get drunk.
All right, Stephen, let's get
There it is.